unique universal spirituality of Bharat, our Sanatan Adhyatma, that believes in the unity of the entire creation. One really wonders the genius, all those genius people, those who could realize this and articulate it in a way that gives us the most beautiful and most powerful formula for worldly coexistence. Because there is no other. Since entire creation is permeated by the divine, then who is other? Nobody is other. All the people sitting here, they look different. We are all looking different. But underneath each one of us is the same divine. And it is not only that's the humans, but all in him. All entire, the plant, animals, even inanimate, is also permeated by the divine. When we say akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam ena charasharam, all over. Nothing is beyond. Nothing is something which is not permeated by the divine. So the diversity which is apparent, it's so easily harmonized. This wonderful realization, this Sanatan Satya, this is eternal truth. We take it to the age of our Vedas, since the period of Rig Veda that it started, and it was articulated by our rishis. And since then it has been carried on by the traditions, by the series, numerous rishis, maharshis have appeared on the sacred land, and they have carried the message. And look at the beautiful way in which they have harmonized it. When there is not only they say it is the universal oneness of the entire creation, but also this realization of oneness, which is not an intellectual realization, it is anubhuti, it is experience. And so experience is subjective, experiencer experiences it according to his or her own, and so many expresses it the way that experiencer feels. And so eko sada vipra baudha vadanti. All various manifestations, various expressions, various sampradaya, they all are expression of the same in various ways. Now it harmonizes the total creation. And this light, the light that is spread over the land, and it created a culture. Culture is what? Culture is the way we conduct our life. It is the entire spectrum of our life. Joys, sorrows, everything put together. Subtle as well as some at times gross. This culture reflects the world view, how we look at ourselves, how we look at others, how we look at the environment, our surrounding. And since it is rooted in that eternal truth, Sanatan Satya, of the divine presence in all the people's culture evolved in tune with that. And that reflects in our day-to-day conduct, the day-to-day rites, rituals, from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, and even while asleep. all aspects. It reflects in our dance, in our music, in our song. Because this worldview of oneness, you will find, you go to any part of the country, you will find that in the folk tales, in the folk arts. And the land over which this light is spread, and which gave rise to a culture which apparently are again diverse, but underlying all this diversity there is an unity, there is a continuum. That land became Bharat. And that is why in our ancient literature they give the geographic expression of Bharat as Uttaram yat samudrasya himadrishya dakshinam varsham tad bharatam nama bharati yat sandati. Land north of ocean and south of Himalayas is Bharat, enlightened land, and its children are Bharati. Now, this land and the people of this land, they didn't have a continuous period of happiness and joy. There were stressful moments. There were moments which were stresses were from within because of the human weaknesses. Stresses were also from outside, external, through invasions, multiple invasions. Now, when the society faced this stress, and that stress created a situation where this Sanatana Satya, based on which our conduct, our life, our society, individual and collective revolved, it came under stress. Then the divine manifested to correct it. We all know in Bhagavad Gita when Bhagavan Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyam. It happened to create the balance when rise of adharma and down of dharma. Dharma is, by the way, English language has done a lot of damage. We try to put dharma as a religion. This is very unfair, and I have been keep repeating it. Why don't we use the word dharma? Why do we have to use when we write in English religion? Similarly, I hear a lot of people talking about Vedantic philosophy. I have a serious problem. Philosophy is an European, Western concept. It's based on logic, intellectual. Naisa tarikena matirapaneya. Our Kathopanishad says you cannot get the essence through logic. And that is why there is a fundamental difference between Eastern and Western epistemology. Bharatiya epistemology, Gyan Paddhati, intellect, buddhi is important, but is not sovereign. Buddhi has to be coupled with anubhuti. Anubhuti is not something which one experiences through logic. It has to be experienced. And that is why when we say, that's why we have been in our tradition, in our language, it is called darshan. It is not called philosophy. So it is darshan. Vedanta is a darshan. This, whenever the society, the life, the dharma based on this darshan declined, came under stress, the great people, the great soul, the divine appeared and corrected. And when we look at the time of Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi, that time was also something similar. The society was under stress. Why did he have to appear? I think a question that comes to, that used to come at some point of time to my mind, that why do such souls appear from time to time? Okay, I read it. So what was that dharma which was facing the glani at the time when Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi appeared? He manifested. That was a very, very critical time. That was the time when this Bharat was facing existential crisis. existential threat by the instruments of colonial power. When the British came for trading and did the trading for about 150 years, they continued with the business. But when the middle of 18th century, they started capturing territories and colonizing, then the question was to how to make the empire, the rule of the British, enduring as possible. And in pursuit of that objective, to exploit this land as much and the resources as much as possible and as long as possible, they came up with various instruments. One of the instruments was in 1813, what the British Parliament created, India Charter Act 1813. The India Charter Act 1813, it mandated the East India Company to evangelize India, because they realized that this Bharat, its identity has to be destroyed. So otherwise it will be very difficult to sustain the empire for long. So it is through the act of British Parliament, they mandated the company to evangelize India. And when in 1858, when the British government took over directly, of course there was a background to it, I am not going into that. 1858, when they took over directly, at the time, the British Prime Minister Henry Templeton, he gave an account in the British Parliament. Why was the British government taking over the control of administration of Bharat, India? There, while explaining, because we know that after 1857, 1858, they took over, until then it was the company which was ruling. When, in his speech, he giving reasons for taking over, he comes down to the obligation cast on by the Act of British Parliament of 1813. He says, we are conscious of it, and I would like to assure the House that we will continue with evangelization, because it is not only an obligation cast on us by the Act of Parliament, but it is also our necessity to ensure that our empire is enduring. And then once the British government took over, they further added the host of missionaries. They started coming to evangelize this country, all over the country. The soul of this country, the Bharat, was under stress. It was in that background that we had a number of great souls appearing. Ramakrishna Paramhans had appeared in Bengal, who eventually gave birth to Swami Vivekananda. But by the time Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans was in his autumn of his life, evening, we found divine incarnating here, manifesting in Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi. It was a divine design to save the soul of Bharat. And a thing that we often miss is when the national freedom movement that began and it continued, it was not just for the political freedom of this country. In 1931, 26th of January, when in the Lahore Declaration, Mahatma Gandhi had drafted the resolution, there he mentions that the first time the demand was made for Purna Swaraj, total independence. Until then it was home rule. The Purna Swaraj demand was because the resolution reads, the British ruined this country politically, economically, but culturally and spiritually. They have ruined this country's culture and spirituality, which is the soul, the sense of Swattva, sense of selfhood of Bharat. And it was by a design. And unfortunately, after the British left, we were happy with political freedom. And we start building the country through its economic activities, industrialization and all various measures. But this cultural and spiritual aspect of this country, cultural and spiritual rejuvenation of this country did not become a concern as it should have been. But thanks to bodies like several bodies, including the later period what Ramana Bhakta Samajam came, they continued, small bodies all over the country, they continued and tried to preserve it. In fact, this, when we talk about Bharat, it is not a narrow nationalism. It is nationalism of Bharat, Rashtriyata, is not what again nationalism of many other countries have been. Chauvinistic, no. Nationalism of Bharat has been for the good of the world. Because right from the beginning, we have not only thought for ourselves, we have thought for the whole world. I was told, one speaker mentioned about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is our sanskar. I am nizo paroveti ganana lagu chetasam udara charita nam Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is mine, this is yours, is a narrow-mindedness. When we pray about Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu naramaya, we pray for all. We don't say that only of people of this land, my family or these people. We pray for all. That is why when 1947, when the British left, Rishi Aurobindo, another great soul, he jotted down some dreams of Bharat. What should the Bharat be doing? And there he mentions that Bharat has an obligation, a duty to rise for the good of the world. He says that in the entire universe, Earth is the only evolutionary planet where we have life. And life is in the process of evolution. At least so far science has not proved life anywhere else, at least evolutionary life. And on this planet, Bharat is the only land where this realization came, the universal oneness, that this creation is a manifestation of the same divine. Now this light which is in Bharat has to spread to the rest of the world. And for the light to spread to the rest of the world, Bharat must rise. Bharat must be the leader of the world. It is not a choice, it is a duty. It is a divine obligation cast on this country to rise for the good of the world. And unfortunately for long, we didn't understand what Bharat is. We kept looking at this country from the eyes of India, not from Bharat. Even though our constitution says India, that is Bharat. India is introduced through the word Bharat. But I don't think, I think we have a great jurist, Justice Vaidyanathan. I don't know whether we teach our law students what is Bharat. But when you look at the original constitution, when the constitution, and this again is a systemic defect, when the constitution was drafted and when it was placed before the Constituent Assembly, a number of speakers, a number of members of the Constituent Assembly raised the question, this looks a totally neutral document. You talk about fundamental rights. Everyone, all over the world, people should have fundamental rights. You talk about state and union, center. This is any federal system, it will be a state and union. You talk about separation of power between the two. That is natural, fine. You talk about three pillars, legislature, executive, judiciary. This is fine. You talk about collection of taxes and devolution of taxes. Okay, administrative arrangement. You talk about conflict resolution between the entities. Fine, this also. So this document can be valid for any part of the world, any country. Where is Bharat in it? And then, of course, certain measures were taken. They realized, yes, Bharat must be introduced. And one of the measures taken was through pictorial depiction, through painting in our constitution, which tells about the civilizational evolution of Bharat. And the very first painting in our constitution, and then there were person like our great painter of Shantiniketan, Nandalal Bose. He and his team, they were commissioned to create the paintings which will depict the civilizational evolution of Bharat, which will be placed in the constitution. And they were placed. And our constitution, the first painting in our constitution was Vedic Gurukulam, period of Veda, from where our civilization begins. Here is a teacher, Rishi, teaching the students in a pastoral environment. It moves on when it talks to fundamental right. What is fundamental right? What are fundamental rights? Right to equality, right to life, right to liberty. This is nothing but Ramarajya. So the painting before part 3 of the constitution, fundamental right was Sri Rama's Pattabhisekam when he came back. Now our constitution is full of all these paintings. But unfortunately, these are nowhere found today. No one even talks about it. When I talk to senior judges also, is it so? Who will say? If you say you are ignorant, then who will be? The soul of Bharat is there in the constitution, depicted through the civilizational paintings of civilizational journey of Bharat. But this we don't talk about it. Even then, in the Constituent Assembly, one member, K.T. Sai, raised the point, what should be the state's disposition to religion? The entire Constituent Assembly was surprised at the question, that what a question you are asking, what should be? Because in this country, our disposition has been equal respect to all. Because after all, this is when we say universal oneness and myriad manifestation, myriad expressions, then where is the need for a state to choose or not to choose? So the matter was dropped. The word was not used. But for some reason, during emergency, 1976, when the constitution was amended, the word secular was introduced. And even there, when the word secular was introduced in our preamble, the person who piloted the bill in the Constituent Assembly, in the Parliament, was Swaran Singh, chairman of the Constitution Review Committee, who made all the committee that made all the recommendations, which became 42nd Amendment. And while explaining in the Lok Sabha, and it is there on the internet, you can just click it. It is on 27th of October 1976. Lok Sabha debates, you will get it. When Swaran Singh, while introducing the amendment, introducing the word secularism, he mentions that as far as secularism is concerned, when he came to secularism, He said, at the very outset, I like to make it abundantly clear, I am quoting his words, that our secularism is not the dictionary meaning of secularism. Dictionary meaning of the word secularism is an European construct. When there was a clash between the church and the state, when the state power was taken, a lot of powers of the state, the kings were being exercised by the church, there was a clash, there was a hostility. And out of that hostility, there finally a truce emerged that, okay, there is a boundary, this is where you will stop. And they put the word the secular, the concept that emerged, that they say, what is unto Caesar, what is up to the king, the God, the church. This separation was out of hostility between the church and the king. It was born out of a prolonged infighting between the two. There is no such thing in Bharat. So he makes it very clear. Swaran Singh, in his speech, he makes it clear. Our secularism is not European secularism. Is not what is defined in the dictionary. Our secularism is equal respect to all religion, all faith. Now, when we say that equal respect to all, it's a fundamentally different from to say that a state, we have nothing to do with the religion. Because it was made clear that a state cannot be separated from dharma. And that is why when secular word was translated in Indian languages, the word dharma was not used. Even in Sanskrit, it was say pantha nirupeksh. Pantha, various sampradayas. A state does not hold on to one sampradaya. And even in Tamil, when the Tamil edition of this preamble of the constitution came, it is not Aram Sarbatra, it was Samaya Sarbatra. Now, unfortunately, a distorted and perverted meaning has been given to it. We have brought it into the textbook as if it has nothing to do with it. Now, this is all by design. It was a colonial, and post-colonial it continues. Today, when our country is rising to its destiny, we all know that there are fundamental transformations happening. It cannot just happen in the material world. Swami Vivekananda had also said that you cannot have just a bhautik prosperity, a physical prosperity. Then it will be a poor imitation of the West. What the world needs is bhautik prosperity, the physical prosperity, along with that, our spirituality, a spirituality of Bharat that looks at the world as a family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This combination has to be there. Only then, the world will be saved. And as Rishi Aurobindo said, that rise of Bharat is an obligation, is a duty of Bharat. This duty to rise is from both, from the material and from the spiritual. Bhautik and as well as Adhyatmik. This resurgence is very, very essential. And today when the world is facing all the kind of crises, existential crisis, climate, you see, we all know. Many countries, many island countries are worried that in the next couple of decades they will be wiped off the maps of history, maps of the world. They will not be, they all go under the water. We know that glaciers are melting, ice caps, polar ice caps are receding, rivers are drying up. Places which used to be cold are facing unexpected heat waves. Places which were rain deficient having floods. The fury of elements, the fury of nature we are all witnessing today. Now, this can be corrected only with the rise of Bharat. And this rise of Bharat has to be with a combination of Desa Bhakti and Daiva Bhakti. Because when we say Daiva Bhakti is our Adhyatma, and that our Adhyatma is our Desa Bhakti. To build the nation, to build Bharat, we have to also build our spiritual strength. And towards this journey, I congratulate Sri Bhagwan Ramana Bhakta Samajam, its members, Sri Ramji, who have been doing excellent work. I wish all of you the very best. You have a very important responsibility in building this country in the next 25 years of Amrit Kal. By the time 2047 our country celebrates centenary of independence, we must be the leader of the world, and there you will say what you have contributed towards making it so. Thank you very much. Jai Bharat.
I think he richly deserves a standing ovation. Such a brilliant speech.
Thank you so much, sir, for reiterating our collective purpose as Bharatiya people and as devotees of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. I request Thiru A.R. Chandrasekhar to deliver a vote of thanks.
Honorable Governor of Tamil Nadu, esteemed speakers, distinguished guests, and my dear devotees and students. We are very happy that today Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi's Jayanti and release of the commentary on Muruganar, Sri Ramana Anubhuti, they have been conducted and celebrated in a grand and fitting manner. This has been made possible because of your presence and participation. So on behalf of Sri Ramana Samajam West Mambalam, I profusely thank you all. Honorable Governor Thiru R.N. Ravi, he has carved a niche for himself in the hearts of public at large in Tamil Nadu. Relentlessly he has been fostering nationalism and spiritualism in Tamil Nadu. He is the man who tamed the fearsome insurgents in Nagaland, and this local divisive force are no match for him. In a recent meeting, he stated that spirituality cannot be delinked from Tirukural. We rejoiced. It expressed our sentiments and feelings. We are deeply indebted to him for gracing this occasion and acting as chief guest. He traced the history of our religion, culture, and glorified our Bharat Mata. We are all so much enlightened and happy over that. And then Mr. Justice Vaidyanathan, he eloquently delivered a lecture about the relevance of Sri Ramana Maharshi and his teachings. Thank you, sirs, for enlightening the audience. You have made a very reverential tribute on this occasion. Thank you so much. And we all know Padma Bhushan Sudha Raghunathan as a great Carnatic vocalist and music composer, but today we witnessed her as in a different role, as a seasoned speaker and scholar, well versed in Ramana's philosophy. In fact, she narrated her musical experience in singing Ramana's prayers and hymns. And thank you, madam. About Muruganar, he has once said, "Vaalthuvade en vaazhu." My life is to praise Bhagavan Ramana. So in the same lines, Sri Sriramji's mission is to keep on writing commentaries on Muruganar's work so that it reaches all the people. It's all written in a very simple and lucid style. So the purpose of the publication of all these books is so that you should buy and browse it at your leisure and enrich yourself. Even if you cannot read it because it is difficulty, please, it doesn't matter, you buy and keep it in your puja room, because it will certainly work. We consider that is the power of holy books. We keep Ramayana and Bharata like that. Ramananubhuti must be kept in our pujas. Okay? Then, one more request as appealed by Sri Ramji. Please enroll yourself for the certificate course in Tamil Nadu Open University for Jnana Tamil. There is no age limit and the fee is also very nominal. It will definitely enrich you with spiritual wisdom, culture and Tamil literature. And coming to Meenakshi Sundararajan College, they have been opening their doors always open for all our functions. We are deeply beholden to Madam Babai and Madam Lakshmi for their patronage. See, as you may be aware, in our Samajam, we have been conducting online satsang on daily basis for the last 3 years, ever since this COVID environment, COVID lockdown was introduced. We have been conducting and it is still continuing. Credit goes to our treasurer Ravi Shankar and his family for doing this tireless job. Give him a big hand for that. I should also make a special mention about our secretary Vaidyanathan, MK Vaidyanathan, who in spite of his advanced age and health issues, he has marked his presence today. And lastly, about your overwhelming response, you are all devotees. You view this occasion as a blessing and God's gift. So I think it will be too formal to thank you. I end up by saying Namo Ramanaya, Namo Ramanaya, Namo Ramanaya.
I request everybody to please rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उत्कल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जाहे तब शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे दव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Lunch is served in the open foyer.